Joining us now, Michael McFaul, a former U.S. ambassador to Russia and NBC News analyst, retired Navy Admiral James Stavridis, who served as Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. Gentlemen, it's good to see you again. I'll start with you, Admiral Stavridis, on the situation in Kiev. Literally, as we speak, the march on the capital appears to be on. What's your assessment of the strategy here and the ultimate goal?
It's continuing according to form, which is to say, three-axis approach. We've talked about Kiev from the north. They're coming in on the east through Kharkov, and they're coming up from the south. In the center of that mass, though, Savannah, are 100,000, 150,000 Ukrainian troops. They are angry. They are armed. As President Zelensky said a couple of days ago, when the Russians show up, they will see our faces, not our backs. I think they are going to fight. And, oh, by the way, in addition to the Molotov cocktails that Richard mentioned, the government in Kiev has handed out 18,000 rifles to the populace. They're restricting all men age 18 to 60 from leaving the country. Clearly, Zelensky, he's out of his suit. He's wearing his hunting gear. This is going to be a tough fight for the Russians.
They seem to be digging in for the long haul, the Ukrainians do, as mentioned. Let me turn to you, Mr. Ambassador. We talked about sanctions yesterday. Do these sanctions have teeth that will bite? Do they go far enough? Are they going to hit Putin where it hurts?
I think they're great. They're very comprehensive sanctions. It's going to disrupt the financial institutions. A couple of the biggest banks were hit yesterday. I applaud them. And at the same time, I want to be crystal clear. The effect of these kinds of sanctions don't happen overnight. I think they only happen over months and years, not days and weeks. And it's not going to change Putin's calculus as he conducts this war. I mean, think about the list that you just put up. Disrupting technology. I applaud that. But those are things that'll happen, way down the supply chains for companies in Russia. They're not something that's going to have an impact on Putin. They'll impact companies, but then those companies have to lobby Putin. And remember, this is a dictatorship, not a democracy. It's not so easy to do.
Yeah, you might for a moment imagine that some of these Russian oligarchs who are now feeling the brunt of sanctions might say to Putin, hey, this goes too far. But that's not the world that Putin lives in.
Well, exactly. First of all those oligarchs are rich and were appointed by Putin. The two top banks that were sanctioned by the President Biden, the Biden administration yesterday, both of those gentlemen were appointed by Putin. They're not independent billionaires saying, hey, Mr. President, I need you to change your policy. And therefore, that means that Putin can go for a long, long time without feeling the pressure from his society from these sanctions. So they're the right thing to do. I want to say that clearly. I want more. I agree with Senator McConnell. I don't get to say that very often. I agree with Senator McConnell. The more, the better. But let's not have any illusions about how effective they'll be in the short term.
And Admiral Stavridis, what can the U.S. and the West do to support the Ukrainians who are saying we're willing to stand up and face these Russian troops and fight them at great cost? I heard someone in the Ukrainian parliament say, we know we're fighting alone, but asked if there could be a no-fly zone, something like that. What can the West realistically do to help the Ukrainians in this fight?
Well, you've just outlined the agenda, Savannah, for the meeting occurring today at NATO headquarters. 30 nations, they represent 55% of the world's GDP, 3 million troops under arms, almost all volunteers, highly capable alliance. And, oh, by the way, in addition to the 30 NATO nations, if I were Vladimir Putin, I'd be quite distraught to see Finland and Sweden, non-NATO countries, at that meeting today. I think the NATO membership card is becoming pretty valuable in Europe. In terms of what specifically the alliance can do, they're doing it, which is to move massive amounts of troops up to the borders. We've deployed an additional 12,000 U.S. troops, for example, but the Brits, the French, the Italians, everyone is moving troops to that border. And the next step is going to be supporting a Ukrainian resistance, if it gets that far, with equipment, guidance, cyber oversight, intelligence. We can do this. I don't think it's going to back down Putin instantly, but it's a higher chance that a strong resistance ultimately will will encourage him to reduce his grip on Ukraine. That's the real pain point we ought to be pursuing.
All right, Ambassador McFaul and Admiral Stavridis, as always, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.